The story begins with a darkly humorous and fatalistic twist. In the somewhat cold, brightly lit registration hall of New York City Hall, the air is thick with the faint smell of photocopying paper and disinfectant. Ye Sangnian and Shen Tingbai, two souls whose paths never crossed in the city's coordinate system, are forced, by the mad gears of fate, to sign their names on the same marriage certificate in this very second. Ye Sangnian clutches the bright red marriage certificate, still warm from the printer, her fingertips turning slightly white from the pressure. Her eyes are a mixture of utter bewilderment, shock, and a lingering sense of absurdity, as if she hasn't just gotten married, but has stumbled into an absurd dream from which she cannot awaken. Standing quietly beside her, Shen Tingbai resembled a deity sculpted from the finest marble. His deep black bespoke suit, hands-on stitched over months by a Savile Row tailor, perfectly accentuated his broad shoulders and upright figure, exuding the unapproachable aristocratic air inherent in this helmsman of a business empire. He casually adjusted his gold Zan-rimmed glasses perched on his straight nose, his long narrow eyes behind the lenses as cold and unyielding as ice, devoid of even the slightest emotional ripple, a calmness that was oppressive. At this pivotal turning point, poised to completely rewrite their lives, a shrill, jarring smartphone video call ringtone shattered the suffocating silence in the vast, quiet hall. On the other end of the screen, the face of her blind date, distorted with extreme anger, swayed violently in front of the camera. Even through the screen, her almost hysterical questioning and roaring could be heard. Ye Sangnian, how much longer are you going to make me wait? I've been sitting in this coffee shop waiting for you for 3 whole hours. Who do you think you are? If you dare stand me up today, you can forget about ever stepping foot in our house again. Ye Sangnian was so embarrassed, she wanted to dig a hole in the smooth marble floor of the Civil Affairs Bureau. She nervously gripped her phone, frozen in place as if under Medusa's gaze, even her breathing becoming cautious. In her extreme panic, she subconsciously glanced at Shen Tingbai, who stood expressionless beside her, out of the corner of her eye. Then, as if she had made a desperate decision, she took a deep breath, hunched over, and whispered into the phone microphone in a voice as soft as a mosquito's buzz, filled with extreme shame. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I think I've made a terrible mistake. I completely confused my blind date with my marriage partner. After the long and awkward registration process, Shen Tingbai personally drove Ye Sangnian back to her small apartment in an old neighborhood. In that narrow elevator car, filled with the smell of rusty metal and with walls that gleamed coldly, the two stood side by side. In the quiet air, they could even clearly hear each other's breathing. A subtle, dark, and inexplicably tense emotion quietly grew in the reflection of the metal walls. After safely delivering the frightened Ye Sangnian to her new home and watching her enter, Shen Tingbai turned and left the dilapidated building that seemed so out of place in his own world, returning to the cold, impersonal world that truly belonged to him, the Shen Group's global headquarters building, where he controlled the city's economic lifeline. Standing in his top Zan floor office, a spacious space with 3 huge floor Zan ceiling windows spanning hundreds of square meters, his assistant, while presenting a freshly printed background check report, cautiously and carefully suggested in a low voice, Mr. Shen, this Miss Ye's background is far too ordinary. For the sake of the group's reputation and your personal safety, shouldn't we use some means to keep her in her own lowly world, never allowing her to cross the line? Shen Tingbai slowly turned around, a chillingly dangerous glint in his deep eyes. He coldly retorted, "Are you trying to teach me how to do things?" The assistant's face instantly turned deathly pale, and he immediately lowered his head, repeatedly admitting his mistake. Shen Tingbai walked to the huge floor Zan ceiling window, looking down at the city skyline that stretched like a giant dragon. The neon lights reflected on his cold profile, and his tone carried a hint of tenderness and meaning that no one else could detect. No need to waste your time. After searching for so many years, she has already fallen into my trap. The next day, the sun shone as expected into the magnificent recruitment hall of the Shen Group. The hall was already packed with a sea of job seekers, the air thick with anxiety, anticipation, and the tension of competition. Ye Sangnian was also among the surging crowd. She was wearing a slightly faded business suit, originally intending to find a Lozan-level, ordinary job to make a living in this indifferent city. However, in her haste to avoid the throng and to save time, she mistakenly entered a private elevator, a completely metal structure with a dark gold sign, a vehicle reserved for the president and core executives of the entire building. With a crisp beating, the metal elevator doors slid open slowly to the sides on the top floor, revealing a scene Ye Sangnian would never forget. The core employees of the entire administrative floor stared intently at this audacious intruder with complex expressions of shock and disdain. Just as Ye Sangnian was caught in a dilemma, her blood running cold with embarrassment, a steady, powerful, and imposing sound of leather shoes echoed from the end of the corridor. Shen Tingbai, surrounded by a group of impeccably dressed, solemn Zan-faced executives, strode confidently towards them. All the employees who had been whispering instantly stood at attention, as if struck by lightning. The atmosphere in the entire corridor seemed to freeze completely. Ye Sangnian stood timidly at the very edge of the crowd, her head bowed low, her heart pounded wildly in her chest, terrified that this high Zan-ranking man would recognize her as the absurd newlywed wife from yesterday. However, the workplace life that followed, seemingly scripted by fate, turned into a near-Zan cruel ordeal for Ye Sangnian, who had no connections whatsoever. She was deliberately assigned to the most arduous and demanding cleaning and logistics department. And when the rusty gears of fate began their teeth turning again, she was shocked to discover that her direct supervisor in this large corporation was none other than her long-Zan lost cousin Yiwani, with whom she had a terribly strained relationship. Back in their school days, Yiwani had been consumed by jealousy and relentless targeting of Ye Sangnian because of her pure and beautiful face. Now, the tables had turned, and seeing Ye Sangnian reduced to a lowly cleaning lady under her, her twisted jealousy instantly manifested in the most vicious and malicious acts of harassment. In the company's spacious and bright core office area, large enough to accommodate hundreds of people, Yiwani, dressed in an elegant business suit, arms crossed and wearing sky-Zan high leather heels, arrogantly and condescendingly ordered Ye Sangnian, who was kneeling on the floor vigorously scrubbing the marble floor. In a sharp sarcastic tone, she loudly mocked, "Oh Ye Sangnian, you don't actually think you can just coast through life at our Shen group with your looks, do you? Let me tell you, the cleaning outside the top Zan floor president's office is now your responsibility. If I find even a speck of dust on the floor tomorrow morning, you'd better clean up your mess and get the hell out of here." Not only that, but the ruthless Yiwani, determined to completely shatter Ye Sangnian's self-esteem, deliberately ordered her to brew hot coffee for every single one of the dozens of employees in the administrative department during the busiest morning meeting. As Ye Sangnian, head bowed and eyes downcast, carefully carried a tray of steaming cups of coffee into the department's main office, where an urgent business meeting was underway, Yiwani was preparing to publicly humiliate and mock her with no holds barred, alongside several of her cruel subordinates. However, at that critical, suffocating moment, the tightly shut solid wood door was violently pushed open from the outside. Surrounded by a group of bodyguards, Shen Tingbai, without any warning and in full view of everyone, cut straight through the noisy crowd. Exuding an icy, piercing aura, he walked step by step with unwavering determination right up to the humble Ye Sangnian. He did not look at a single person around him. Instead, in a deep magnetic voice, brimming with unquestionable authority, he announced coldly, enunciating each word with deliberate precision in an atmosphere so silent you could hear a pin drop. "From this moment on, she no longer belongs to the logistics department. She is my personal head of housekeeping." Every word of that statement felt like a thunderous hammer, striking the very core of everyone present with unrelenting force, leaving them all momentarily speechless. Shen Tingbai completely ignored the stunned stares around him. He lowered his gaze to Ye Sangnian, who stood before him with slightly reddened eyes, clearly still reeling from this massive twist. His normally icy brow furrowed slightly, and a rare flicker of concern and tenderness flashed in the depths of his eyes as he chided her in a hushed voice. "What's going on? Why are you putting up with this kind of treatment in a place like this? From scum like this?" Ye Sangnian kept her head down, looking somewhat at a loss. Her slender fingers twisted the hem of her work uniform tightly as she bit her lip. Finally, unable to hold back, she asked timidly in a barely audible voice, "Shen Tingbai, you've been so kind to me since yesterday, even going so far as to risk offending the company's management. Is it because you like me that you're doing this?" Faced with Ye Sangnian's almost innocent yet blunt question, a fleeting, complex emotion flashed across Shen Tingbai's strikingly handsome face. Then he returned to his usual quiet reserve, but he did not look away. Instead, with a gaze that was more tender, intense, and unwavering than ever before, he gently watched her delicate, slightly trembling chin. The overwhelming love in his eyes had, in fact, already provided the most undeniable answer. After the workplace turmoil had temporarily subsided, Shen Tingbai drove Ye Sangnian, her mind heavy with worry, back to the Shen family's old mansion, perched halfway up the mountainside, heavily guarded, and appearing somewhat gloomy and austere. Facing the old lady seated in the grand hall on a rosewood armchair, who was holding a stack of photos of socialites and preparing to press him hard to marry, Shen Tingbai finally stopped hiding the truth. He personally poured his grandmother a cup of tea, then casually lifted the veil of mystery that had the entire elite social circle abuzz with speculation. His tone was calm yet resolute as he confessed, "Grandmother, you needn't trouble yourself with arranging those tedious blind dates anymore, for I have already registered my marriage." Meanwhile, Ye Sangnian, finding the atmosphere at the Shen family mansion too oppressive, had gone off alone to a nearby budget supermarket to clear her head. Yet, in front of the aisles of discounted vegetables, she happened to run into Mrs. Shen, dressed in a simple traditional Chinese outfit and shakily picking out cabbages. At that moment, Ye Sangnian would never have dreamed that this ordinary Zan-looking, kind, Zan-eyed, and even somewhat lonely elderly woman standing before her was actually the ultimate helmswoman wielding supreme power over the 100 Zan billion Zan Yuan Shen group. Yet her innate innocence, kindness, and good manners left her without a moment's hesitation. Not only did she take the initiative to help the old lady carry her heavy shopping bags, but she also patiently chatted with her to lift her spirits. The unpretentious simplicity and purity Ye Sangnian displayed displayed during this seemingly ordinary interaction stirred a storm of emotion in the heart of Mrs. Shen, who was accustomed to a world of deceit and intrigue. The elderly woman was completely moved by this young girl. Even as they parted ways, the look in her eyes, as she watched Ye Sangnian's retreating figure, was filled with boundless hope and joy for this future granddaughter Zhen-in-law. However, a turning point in their fate soon arrived on the day of the old lady's grand Sisha birthday banquet. In front of the heavy brass gate of the Shen family's ancestral home, intricately carved with elaborate patterns, a sickening farce was now unfolding. The snobbish Chen Shikang and Ye Wanyi had carefully selected an expensive antique as a gift. Now standing at the main entrance of the villa surrounded by a sea of luxury cars, they looked down their noses with smug satisfaction, basking in the hypocritical flattery of those around them. When they happened to glance over and saw Ye Sangnian dressed in an extremely plain, even slightly faded, long dress actually present there, the fawning expressions on their faces vanished instantly, replaced by a nearly twisted look of contempt and scorn. Ye Wanyi, striding in her high heels, blocked the path and shrieked, "Oh, I was wondering who it could be. Isn't this our company's cleaning lady? Don't you realize what kind of high-end class birthday banquet this is today? Are you a lowly piece of trash reeking of poverty, even worthy of being here?" Chen Shikang spat on the ground with a look of utter disgust and chimed in with scathing sarcasm. Ye Sangnian stood her ground, her expression as calm as still water as she watched the two clowns before her. Her heart remained utterly unmoved, for she knew full well who had invited her. Just as Ye Wanyi was about to call security to forcibly remove Ye Sangnian, the Shen family's chief butler emerged at that very moment, hurrying out with a retinue of attendants. The butler didn't even glance at the two nouveau riche. Under the stunned gazes of Chen Shikang and Ye Wanyi, he rudely barred the two uninvited guests from the entrance. In that instant, the expressions on the two clowns' faces were nothing short of spectacular, a kaleidoscope of emotions, as if a paint palette had been overturned. The moment Ye Sangnian stepped into the banquet hall, the stern expression on old Madame Shen's face, as she sat in the seat of honor, instantly gave way to unhidden joy and affection. Amid the horrified stares of hundreds of Jiangcheng's top socialites and elite, the old madam waved her hand and ordered the family's financial staff to bring out countless pieces of top-tier jewelry, antique calligraphy, and paintings. She even took the supreme ring of authority, a heirloom passed down through the Shen family for centuries, symbolizing the supreme leader's power, and reserved exclusively for the president's wives of each generation, and in full view of everyone, solemnly and reverently slipped it onto Ye Sangnian's ring finger with her own hands. Witnessing this almost dreamlike scene, Ye Wanyi, who had managed to sneak into the banquet hall and was now hiding in a corner, felt the flames of jealousy in her heart nearly reduce her sanity to ashes, her face contorted beyond recognition. After a brief moment of shock, the madness deep within her drove her to secretly plot a vicious scheme, one designed to completely expose Ye Sangnian's vanity and driven true colors at the company's general meeting. Within days, malicious rumors about that ring spread like a plague throughout Shen Group. Everyone whispered behind closed doors, mockingly speculating that the ring was nothing more than a cheap knockoff Ye Sangnian had bought from a street vendor to satisfy his vanity. Some even maliciously insinuated that it was a filthy trinket stolen from the old lady by a lowly janitor taking advantage of his position. Finally, during a company Zan-wide briefing attended by all core executives, Ye Wanyi felt the time was ripe. Accompanied by several caustic colleagues she had already bribed, she stormed straight toward Ye Sangnian in full view of everyone. Before anyone could react, she snatched the ring of power from Ye Sangnian's hand with a firm grip. Ye Wanyi held the dazzling ring high above her head, facing all the executives and employees present, and laughed hysterically in mockery. "Everyone, come and look, come and see this lying lowly janitor. This is irrefutable proof of her shameless vanity. A filthy janitor actually dared to steal the company's heirloom and flaunt it here. She's brought utter disgrace upon the Shen Group." Just as Ye Wanyi was basking in triumph, convinced she was finally about to drag Ye Sangnian into the mud once and for all, Shen Tingbai, who had been standing quietly in the shadows of the conference room, observing the scene with a cold gaze, finally stepped forward slowly, exuding an aura of terrifying intensity that took everyone's breath away. His long slender fingers, with their sharply defined knuckles, casually plucked the stolen ring of power from the air. He did not speak immediately, but a piercing bones and chilling glint, enough to freeze a person's very soul, suddenly flashed in his eyes, as deep and abysmal as an ocean. Facing this supreme CEO, a man who commanded respect without raising his voice and held the power of life and death over countless people, Ye Wanyi, who had been so arrogant and domineering moments before, suddenly felt a crushing pressure as if a mountain were bearing down on her. Her legs began to tremble violently. Shen Tingbai leaned forward slightly, his gaze devoid of even a shred of human emotion, as he asked coldly, enunciating each word with precision, "Who gave you the audacity to dare touch your belongings with your filthy hands?" Every word of that sentence felt like a block of ice dropped into a pot of boiling oil, instantly plunging the once-stand boisterous conference hall into a deathly silence. Ye Wanyi's face turned as pale as paper. She desperately tried to speak up in her defense, even attempting to exonerate herself with the lie that her family and the Shen family shared some trivial connection. perfection, but in the face of absolute power, her clumsy performance seemed utterly feeble and laughable. But the true fatal blow to Ye Wanyi's spirit came the moment the elderly Mrs. Shen, leaning on her cane and supported by her secretary, slowly entered the conference room. There was no trace of rage on the old lady's weathered face. She simply maintained the grace and composure befitting the matriarch of Jiangxing's most prominent family. She walked slowly over to the trembling Ye Sangnian and with profound tenderness gently took her cold little hands in hers. Then, the elderly matriarch turned and cast a cold glance at Ye Wanyi, who lay limp on the floor. Though her tone was flat, it carried an overwhelming authority that commanded unquestioning obedience. This ring of authority is a gift this old woman have personally bestowed upon the Shen family's sole rightful future granddaughter, Zhen-in-Zhen-Law. As for the Sozhen called special moment and engraving you mentioned, Grandma paused, then slowly pulled from her pocket another identical anti-Zan counterfeiting certificate, hand Zan drawn by a national Zan level master along with another mother ring. She sneered, that is the Shen family's century Zan old anti-Zan counterfeiting craftsmanship. It is unique in this world and symbolizes the sacred succession of the Shen family's highest authority. Who do you think you are, daring to boss people around here? All the conspiracy schemes and traps Ye Wanyi had painstakingly plotted over the past few days instantly crumbled like thin paper in the sunlight, fragile and ready to shatter at the slightest touch, in the face of the Shen family's absolute power and overwhelming authority. Shen Tingbai's gaze was utterly cold. He extended his powerful arm and with extreme possessiveness wrapped it around Ye Sangnian's slender shoulders. Then, he gave a cold wave to the several burly blacks and clad security guards waiting at the door. Amid the scornful mockery and schadenfreude, she was dragged out of the company building by the security guards like a dead dog stripped of all dignity. At the grand entrance of the Shen Group headquarters, the vanity and pride she had once taken pride in as a Sozhen called rich heiress were, in that moment, utterly trampled into the filthiest mire, shattered beyond repair. At the story's end, in the vast courtyard of the Shen family's ancestral home, filled with rare roses, the sun was setting, and the evening glow dyed the entire sky a dreamlike, magnificent shade of purple. Leaning against a carved bench, Ye Sangnian gazed at the ring of authority glistening on her fingertip in the setting sun. Still feeling a bit embarrassed and uneasy, she turned her head and murmured softly to Shen Tingbai beside her, Shen Tingbai, aren't these gifts your grandmother gave me a bit too extravagant and expensive? I just can't help but feel uneasy about keeping them. On Shen Tingbai's face, which appeared even more chiseled and handsome against the silhouette of the setting sun, a gentle smile finally blossomed, one tender enough to melt all the ice and snow in the world. He extended his broad palm and with extreme tenderness gently stroked the top of her soft head. His eyes were filled with an unyielding, burning passion as he spoke in a low, domineering tone that took it for granted. Silly girl, as long as it's something you like in this world, never mind a few pieces of jewelry. Even if I were to hand over the entire Shen group to you on a silver platter, what would that matter? They gazed at each other tenderly, smiling in the warm breeze. All the shadows, misunderstandings, oppression, and hurt they had endured in the past vanished completely in the tenderness of that moment. Those despicable petty people who had once tried to question them, resist them, and ruthlessly drag them into the mud were ultimately reduced to the most laughable bystanders in this earth-shattering, legendary love story. And the brand Zan knew, happy life truly belonging to Ye Sangnian and Shen Tingbai had only just begun at that very moment. In fact, this struggle over the succession and transfer of family power was destined from the very beginning to shatter all semblances of calm in Jiangcheng. That day, in the secret chamber of the old mansion, the matriarch's eyes, filled with the wisdom of age and shrewd insight, stared unblinkingly at Ye Sangnian standing before her. In that moment, the air grew so thick it seemed to freeze solid. What she slowly withdrew from a silk sand-lined box wrapped in fine shoe brocade was far more than just a priceless ring. It was a weighty supreme pledge concerning the rise and fall of the entire vast family for the next 100 years. When that ring, symbolizing supreme honor, was finally slipped onto Ye Sangnian's slender finger, its significance transcended any mundane ornamentation. It represented the status of matriarch, the highest position recognized by every member of the Shen family. Ye Sangnian instinctively wanted to pull her finger back and refuse. The overwhelming sense of being abruptly yanked from the ordinary, mundane life of a commoner into the very heart of a powerful family that held the power of life and death left her so flustered and at a loss that she didn't know what to do. But clearly, the matriarch who had navigated the business world for a lifetime did not give her any opportunity to back down or refuse. Immediately afterward, the matriarch extended her right hand and pushed her distinguished grandson, Shen Tingbai, who had remained silent since entering the room, yet exuded such a powerful aura that it seemed to suck the very air from the room, directly into Ye Sangnian's immediate vicinity. Shen Tingbai once again gently pushed his signature golds and rimmed glasses glasses up with his fingertips. At an angle no one could see, the corner of his mouth curved into a captivating and dangerously handsome smile. This seemingly casual gesture was by no means merely going along with his grandmother's matchmaking. It was in fact a long and planned personal declaration of his domineering yet deep affection, one that brooked no doubt. He extended his broad, calloused yet exceptionally warm hands, clasping Ye Sangnian's small hand firmly, their fingers intertwined. With his slightly rough fingertips, he gently traced the ring on her ring finger, his voice low and hoarse yet carrying an irresistible magnetism. Since it's a gift from Grandma, you can rest assured and keep it safe. I've got everything under control. At every Haidzan society gala that followed, this business tycoon, usually cold and blooded and ruthless, used this almost fengquan, unreserved, and unreasonable extreme favoritism to completely shatter the facades of those Haidzan society socialites. With the most forceful stance, he declared to the world, from this day forward, this girl of humble origins is Shen Tingbai's most precious treasure, engraved on the tip of his heart, a taboo that no one dare touch. Lily dragged her exceptionally heavy silver aluminum magnesium alloy suitcase across the cold stone floor, standing directly in front of that massive imposing dark walnut door, her trembling fingertips softly brushing against the freezing, cracked pattern electronic keypad as the lock let out a sharp, solitary electronic beep that echoed through the empty hallway. As the heavy deadbolt clicked and slid open with a muffled metallic thud, she raised her foot and stepped over the threshold of this house that had held 7 long years of her miserable married life, yet there was not a single trace of lingering affection or hesitation in her pale face. Instead, her expression carried a cold sense of absolute finality, paired with a deep, crushing exhaustion that could only come from enduring thousands of silent, sleepless nights filled with endless disappointment. Outside the grand windows, the morning sun poured through the thick, lush branches of the sycamore trees, casting vibrant green shadows across the room, but no amount of summer light could mask the absolute emptiness and freezing desolation inside her shattered heart. 7 whole years of her life, 7 years of her youth completely wasted, and 7 years of unconditional silent companionship had all completely vanished into thin air in a single day, destroyed by a man's relentless betrayal and arrogance. She walked slowly down the old stone steps of the estate, looking back at the quiet, lifeless family courtyard, knowing deep down that she was finally cutting ties with her past and killing the weak version of herself. Stopping right by a patch of damp, mossy grass, she halted her mechanical steps, slowly raising her right hand into the cool air as she slid off the custom platinum wedding ring from her ring finger, inch by inch. That ring once symbolized a lifetime vow and carried their wedding anniversary carved inside, but now she just tossed it aside with a flick of her wrist, watching it trace a desperate arc through the air. The ring plunged deep into the wet mud and rotting leaves, losing all its light, never to shine again in the dirt. Right at that exact second, when the gloomy dark sky felt like it was going to swallow her alive, a massive black British umbrella opened with a sharp whoosh right over her head, blocking out the pouring rain. Ryan stood quietly behind her like a silent, towering mountain, offering an unbreakable wall of strength in his flawless, custom-tailored dark gray suit without a single wrinkle on it. Their eyes met perfectly under the edge of the umbrella, sharing a deep, silent understanding that only those who survive life and death could ever know, signaling the start of a massive storm about to rock high society. Meanwhile, across the city, Ethan was driving his sports car like a complete madman, racing through the streets toward their luxury townhouse located in the most expensive neighborhood of Los Angeles. He slammed the heavy carved front door open and shouted his wife's name into the empty, lifeless living room, but the only response he got was his own echo and the butler bowing his head in total panic. The butler stood there trembling, gripping an old ostrich feather duster tightly in his hands, looking incredibly nervous and terrified as he whispered that Miss Lily had packed up and left with the child half an hour ago. Hearing those words, Ethan froze instantly on the spot, as if he had been struck by a bolt of lightning, his eyes behind his gold-rimmed glasses filled with total disbelief and a raging wave of fury. He lost his mind, fiercely demanding to know her location and phone number, but the butler just shook his head helplessly under the immense pressure, whispering that Miss Lily left absolutely no messages or forwarding address. Standing all by himself in the middle of that vast, cold living room under the glittering crystal chandelier, Ethan looked incredibly small, frantic, and completely ridiculous to anyone watching. Like a crazed gambler who lost his last dollar, he began tearing through the massive walk-in closet, pulling down shelves and dumping boxes just to find any small trace she might have accidentally left behind. Then his eyes caught a dark, hand-tailored luxury suit hanging deep in the closet, a suit he had never seen before in his life, and his face instantly turned an ugly shade of ash gray. He lunged forward, grabbing the suit by the collar so hard that the veins on the back of his hands popped out, spinning around to scream at the butler, demanding to know whose suit this was. The butler quickly lowered his head, stammering that Miss Lily had personally prepared it for him a few weeks ago with a gentle smile, saying she wanted him to wear it to attend their daughter's wedding. Hearing the words daughter's wedding felt like a dull knife twisting violently inside his chest, and the sharp pain made it hard to breathe because he finally realized it was all a distraction. Lily had crafted a kind, beautiful lie just to keep him blind while she planned her grand escape from his control. Suppressing the explosive rage that threatened to burn away his remaining sanity, his eyes turned bloodshot as he pinned the butler against the wall, demanding to know how many random men Lily brought home while he was away. Faced with Ethan's toxic accusations and and blind jealousy. The butler used all his strength to look up, stating firmly that Miss Lily spent the last 7 years raising the child, never interacting with any outsiders. But those words didn't calm him down at all, instead making his sick suspicion grow wilder like weeds in his mind. She left just 2 minutes ago, and if he ran now, he could still catch her car. That single thought consumed his brain as he spun around and bolted out into the blinding storm like a trapped animal. The downpour grew heavier by the second as Ethan ran down the wet asphalt driveway of the VIP parking lot, completely losing his dignity as a high-profile CEO in front of his staff. His expensive leather shoes splashed through the muddy puddles, his voice cracking as he screamed for his wife at the top of his lungs into the dark empty sky. Right then, a sleek black Rolls-Royce representing absolute wealth and power drove right past him with a cold smooth silence. Through the heavily tinted, one-way bulletproof glass window, one could clearly see Ryan holding the steering wheel with one hand, completely focused on the road ahead. Lily sat quietly in the passenger seat, her head down, calmly scrolling through her custom phone without looking out once. Ethan saw her face clearly through the glass and completely lost his mind, clawing at the moving car and pounding on the windows like a lunatic trying to force them to stop. But the car never slowed down, its brake lights never flashed, leaving him face first in the dirt within seconds. His desperate cries and tears were instantly drowned out by the thunder, forcing him to watch everything he took for granted drive away, way out of his reach forever. Inside the perfectly insulated black car, the space was incredibly warm, quiet, and completely detached from the world. Lily stared at her screen, looking at the chat history containing thousands of cold manipulative texts from Ethan over the years. Without a single moment of hesitation, her slender finger pressed the red delete and block button, her movements clean and completely detached. She looked up at the city lights blurring past her window, feeling a massive weight lift off her shoulders, realizing her 7-year prison sentence of a marriage was finally over. Ryan kept his eyes on the road, occasionally glancing over at her with a deeply restrained tenderness that he had kept hidden for years. To break the heavy silence in the car, he reached into the back seat and handed her a soft, pure cashmere jacket. He gently told her to cover her legs so she wouldn't catch a cold from the car's blasting air conditioning. Lily turned her head, looking at the man who had protected her from the shadows for so long, a soft warmth returning to her eyes as she gave a polite, quiet thank you. At that moment, the peaceful luxury inside the car contrasted sharply with Ethan's pathetic, muddy breakdown out in the storm. As Ethan collapsed onto the wet pavement, crying out for her not to leave, Chloe appeared from the dark alleyway. She held a custom lace umbrella, stepping out silently behind him like a venomous snake waiting for the perfect time to strike. Looking down at Ethan's miserable state, her eyes held zero sympathy, filled instead with a sick, twisted sense of victory. Shay knelt down, whispering toxic rumors right into his ear, making every single word hurt his broken pride like a needle. She lied, saying Lily had been hiding assets for 6 months and already had a younger, wealthier lover lined up, but Chloe completely underestimated Ethan's obsessive nature and the deep trust he still had in Lily's pride. Despite his raging jealousy, he knew Lily was far too proud to ever stoop to something so cheap and low. He snapped around, glaring at Chloe like she was toxic garbage, warning her to shut her mouth before he lost control. To completely destroy Chloe's hopes of replacing her, he screamed that even if his company went bankrupt, Lily would always be his wife. The fake smile froze on Chloe's face, instantly replaced by a deep ugly hatred because she couldn't accept his obsession. She tried to use his company's massive debt as leverage, claiming her family was the only one who could save him, but Ethan wouldn't even look at her face, disgusted by her desperate attempt to use his downfall for her own gain. He stood up from the mud, knowing deep down that the woman who helped him build his business from nothing would never betray him. As time moved on, the wheels of fate began to spin faster across two completely different worlds. After hours of driving, Lily finally arrived at her family's massive centuries-old estate in the heart of New York. It was a true powerhouse property, heavily guarded by armed security with a cold historical aura that demanded respect. The moment she stepped through the grand gates, her silver-haired grandfather was already waiting in the courtyard, leaning on his cane. The old man, who had ruled the business world for decades, felt his eyes well up with tears the second he saw her. That single hug held years of unspoken heartache, regret, and the deep love the old man had for his granddaughter. Ryan stood back respectfully, and the grandfather gave him a firm nod of approval, calling him his grandson-in-law. It was clear that the family head had already accepted Ryan as the only man worthy of protecting the family heir. At that exact moment, Lily finally let her guard down, crying softly as she told her grandfather she chose the wrong man. The old man patted her hand gently, his warm smile marking the official return of the true heir to the grand family fortune. Meanwhile, Ethan's life took a massive dive straight into a freezing dark abyss of total financial ruin. Desperate to save his company, he had to swallow his immense pride at a luxury restaurant in Los Angeles. He spent days preparing a lavish dinner for Mr. Vance, the top investor who held the power to save his company. Ethan acted incredibly humble throughout the meeting, even pouring the wine himself just to keep the man happy. Right as they reached the critical point of signing the contract, the heavy doors were kicked open with a loud bang. Chloe barged in, holding oily cheap red plastic bags filled with street food, followed by Ethan's Ethan's loud parents. His parents loudly complained about how hard the place was to find, dumping the trashy bags right onto the expensive table. The entire atmosphere in the restaurant froze instantly, and the background music cut off as everyone stared in shock. Mr. Vance stared at the leaking red plastic bags, his face twisting in pure disgust at the absolute lack of class. Ethan felt his dignity shatter into dust right then and there in front of the most important investor in the city. His parents kept bragging about how much money they saved by packing up leftovers, completely blind to what they did. They had absolutely no idea they just destroyed their son's entire career and future with their cheap habits. Ethan shook with pure rage trying to explain, but Mr. Vance stood up, having lost all patience for this circus. Ethan lost the entire business game, his project collapsed, and he was totally humiliated in front of his peers. As Chloe kept nagging and blaming him for being weak, Ethan finally snapped, screaming at them to get the hell out. His desperate roar echoed through the room, filled with the crushing weight of total defeat, failure, and isolation. He felt completely abandoned by the world, and as Chloe kept talking, the intense stress caused his vision to go black. His body gave out completely, and he collapsed heavily onto the marble floor, fainting in front of the crowd. When the scene shifted back to an elegant, quiet dining room in New York, it felt like an entirely different universe. Lily and Ryan sat by the window, raising their glasses of fine wine, talking with total grace and ease. Ethan showed up at the entrance, looking exhausted with a wrinkled suit, having tracked her down through old contacts. Watching the perfect harmony between the two, his heart filled with an overwhelming wave of jealousy and bitterness, he walked toward their table like a ghost, trying to bring up their past marriage vows one last time. Lily looked up slowly, her eyes showing zero anger, only a freezing icy detachment that cut through him. She calmly told him they were legally divorced and asked him to respect himself in public from now on. That single word respect cut deep like a sharp knife, instantly killing any remaining illusions he held inside. Ryan casually adjusted his custom cuffs, his powerful presence completely overshadowing Ethan's desperate look. Ethan tried to bring up their early days when they were broke, but Lily just stared at him like he was a stranger. That painful confrontation ended in another total crushing defeat for Ethan as security escorted him out. Desperate to fight back, Ethan risked his entire remaining net worth on a major gala a week later. He called his few remaining associates night and day, planning to present a secret biotech patent at the event. He naively believed that if he proved his business worth, Lily would see his value and come back to him. He had no clue that to his enemy Chloe, his secret plan was just a pathetic struggle of a dying man. The story quickly entered the darkest side of human nature inside a private VIP lounge filled with smoke and noise. Chloe sat deep in a leather sofa, swirling her wine glass with an ugly glint of pure hatred in her eyes. She ordered her hired thugs to ambush Lily during the gala and ruin her reputation with a dangerous drug. She wanted to use the dirtiest methods to drag Lily down from her position as the family heir for good. The trap was set the moment Lily walked past the dimly lit, unmonitored hallway near the VIP lounge during the gala. Several men ambushed her from the shadows, and despite her fierce resistance, the drugged air made her lose her strength. Chloe stood at the end of the hall, watching Lily struggle, with a twisted, sick smile of pure victory on her face. Ethan managed to arrive at the scene at the absolute last second, driven by a sudden gut feeling. The moment he kicked the door open and saw the thugs surrounding Lily, his protective instincts exploded. Like a furious lion defending his mate, he let out a roar and charged into the room without a weapon. He didn't care about the heavy iron pipes or the blood pouring from his own mouth during the brutal fight. His eyes were locked onto Lily, and keeping her safe was the only thing that mattered to him anymore. It was a bloody, violent rescue, a dangerous gamble where he risked his life to save the woman he wronged. Once Lily was safe behind him, a relieved smile touched his bloody face right before a bottle shattered over his head. The man who was exhausted by greed and pride finally found his true purpose in the middle of a fistfight. Covered in blood, Ethan stood firmly in front of Lily like an unbreakable wall, a tragic end to his story, but his brave actions didn't change the dark outcome of the night. As the sirens wailed outside, Chloe screamed in panic as the doors were kicked open by a large squad of family bodyguards and police officers. The entire room fell into chaos, and Lily looked at the bloody man with a mix of deep pity and sadness. There was no love left in her eyes, only a quiet realization that their story was truly over. Ethan tried to take a step toward her, but his deep wounds bled heavier with every movement he made. He whispered that he did it all to prove he never stopped caring about her and their 7 years together. Lily closed her eyes slowly, let out a long sigh of finality, and walked away with her guards without looking back. She left him bleeding on the cold floor, staring helplessly at the doorway, where she disappeared forever. The end of the story felt like a silent final judgment from fate for everyone involved in the tragedy. Chloe was handcuffed on the spot and taken away to a maximum security facility for her long list of crimes, but Ethan was also arrested and sent to prison for his part in the violent brawl and old corporate fraud charges. The immense power of the powerhouse family showed its absolute dominance, ensuring he would never trouble her again. The business empire Ethan spent his life building collapsed completely within days of his final arrest. In the cold prison visiting room, Ethan stared out a tiny window at the gray sky, waiting for Lily every day, but deep down he knew the woman he neglected for 7 years would never step foot into that dark place again. That was their final end, showing 7 years of marriage was just a long, exhausting nightmare Waking up from it left nothing but shattered pieces and bloodstains across the memory of their youth. In his cell, Ethan replayed images of Lily busy cooking in their tiny first apartment when they had nothing. He thought about the day they got married when they were completely broke but genuinely happy together. Back then he promised her that his hard work would eventually give her the entire world, but his own arrogance and greed dealt him a painful ultimate slap to the face at the end of the road. Lily was never a prize to show off or a tool to be sacrificed for his corporate greed. She was a brilliant independent soul who deserved real respect, not his toxic control and cold shoulder. Her final departure wasn't about money or another man, but the result of countless lonely nights of crying. She finally realized he could never give her the basic human respect and peace she needed to survive. Returning to her family in New York, Lily didn't waste a single moment crying over the past. She threw herself entirely into her role as the head of the global family conglomerate. Her world belonged in international boardrooms, far away from a small kitchen and Ethan's toxic jealousy. She picked up her old business dreams, showing incredible talent and sharp execution that amazed the industry. Her strategic partnership with Ryan expanded their business globally and built a beautiful new lifestyle. Ryan truly understood her coldness, her hidden vulnerability, and her absolute need for freedom. Their relationship had none of Ethan's toxic possessiveness, only a deep connection between two equal souls. This was the exact kind of mature, respectful love Lily had been searching for her entire life. As for Chloe, justice caught up with her inside a dark cell where she lost all her glamour. She spent her days screaming at the prison walls, cursing Lily's luck and Ethan's final betrayal. She hated every woman who lived a better life, completely blind to her own toxic actions. But her bitter anger was completely useless against the harsh reality of her long prison sentence. The evil she tried to inflict on Lily backfired completely, destroying her life from the inside out. Ethan's parents lost their luxury home after the courts cleared their son's remaining assets to pay his debts. They were sent back to their old farm, broken, forgotten by the high society they tried to run with. In that quiet place they would spend their remaining nights crying over the son who lost everything in the city. Ethan grew old and frail behind the prison walls. As the years slowly passed by, his dark hair turned completely gray, looking nothing like the powerful young CEO he used to be. He became just another forgotten inmate, staring blankly at the cold corner of his cell every night. Every time darkness fell, he replayed that rainy night in his head, wondering what if things were different, what if he hadn't been so arrogant, or what if he had given her a little more warmth over the years. But life has absolutely no do-overs, and their story officially ended at that gala week later. Lily continued to walk elegantly through high society in her long black dresses, a true queen of the industry. She never cast a single glance back at the man who was stuck in the mud of his own making. That was reality, harsh and completely honest. Showing love can't survive without real respect. Letting go was the only real choice left for her to save her own soul from his darkness. The heavy prison doors slammed shut with a booming echo, sealing his fate for the rest of his life. The chapter of their chaotic marriage was closed forever, and Lily's name became a legend of female independence. She wasn't anyone's wife anymore. She was fully her own person, standing tall at the top of the world. The wedding ring she tossed into the mud was buried deep under the dust of time, never to be found. The dream of their 7-year marriage was completely gone, leaving only a bright new future ahead of her. Inside the private club lounge, the dark lights made the dangerous situation feel even more terrifying. The violence exploded when the thugs slammed Lily hard onto the freezing marble floor without warning. The visual impact of that exact moment was incredibly brutal and filled with pure malice. Her proud head was forced against the cold ground, her arms pinned tightly behind her back by heavy hands. The crushing pain and public humiliation caused her immense physical and emotional distress as she struggled. Standing over her with a twisted, superior look on her face was Chloe in her expensive designer suit. Her elegant clothing contrasted sharply with her vicious, low-class actions against the family heir. She dug her sharp high heel firmly into the back of Lily's hand, enjoying the sound of her pain. A dark smile spread across her face as she spit out cruel insults, mocking Lily's current situation. The men in the lounge laughed along, treating the horrific abuse like a cheap show for their entertainment. Suddenly, the heavy metal door was slammed open with a loud crash that shook the walls. Ethan stormed into the room, his eyes blazing with pure fury behind his gold-rimmed glasses. Seeing Lily on the floor and Chloe laughing made him freeze instantly as his heart shattered. His protective instincts took over, and he knelt down to scoop Lily up into his arms, trembling with rage. Chloe stumbled backward in her high heels, her face turning pale as she realized she was caught. Ethan's deep voice demanded answers, his cold tone carrying an absolute judgment that terrified her. Chloe stuttered, her eyes darting around the room in complete panic as she tried to find a way out. She tried to act innocent in front of him, putting on a fake sad face to hide her guilt. She quickly suggested they take Lily to the nearest hospital right away to show she cared. But that seemingly kind suggestion was actually a calculated, deadly trap she planned from the start. She knew the private club was located out in the middle of a very isolated rural area. The nearest hospital was over an hour's drive away through heavy traffic and winding roads. With the type of dangerous drug in Lily's system, any delay would cause permanent brain damage. Ethan ignored her fake act completely, knowing they couldn't waste a single second on her lies. He said going to that hospital was out of the question because it was far too distant to save her. He held Lily tightly against his chest, acting like a fierce, unbreakable shield to protect her life. He was determined to keep her safe from any more more harm, even if it cost him his own life. He barked a cold order for everyone to get the hell out of the room immediately. His powerful voice commanded absolute authority, forcing the thugs to step back in fear. He completely iced Chloe out, refusing to give her a single glance as he carried Lily away. He held her with total gentleness, treating her like a fragile treasure he finally found again. The love in his eyes contrasted sharply with his cold fury toward the criminals in the room. This time, he was fighting to truly protect her, without any selfish motives or greed. The long hours crawled by, and Lily finally woke up early the next morning in a quiet room. She lay in Ethan's beautifully decorated private bedroom, her body still weak and exhausted from the drug, but she felt a deep sense of safety and peace after surviving that terrifying nightmare. Ethan sat at his desk near the window reviewing corporate files in the soft morning light. His tired silhouette showed the calm focus of a man who was completely in control of the situation. Hearing her move on the bed, he stopped working instantly and rushed over to her side. He handed her a warm glass of water, his hands trembling slightly with relief as she looked at him. Lily drank the water slowly as the terrifying memories of the previous night flashed back in her mind. She looked at him and softly said he was the one who saved her from that dark place. Ethan nodded quietly, wasting no time on small talk or useless explanations about his own injuries. He handed her an entire file of solid evidence he gathered against Chloe's family overnight. It detailed exactly how Chloe planned the ambush and paid off the club staff to isolate her. Over the next 6 days, things seemed quiet on the surface of the financial district. But behind the scenes, Lily plotted a massive flawless revenge against everyone involved. She stayed patient like a skilled hunter, waiting for Chloe to walk right into her trap. The upcoming luxury charity gala would be the absolute center of her entire retaliation plan. It was going to be the absolute end of Chloe's social life and her family's fortune for good. Looking in the mirror, Lily's cold eyes shone brighter than any diamond in the world. She wasn't a helpless victim anymore, she was the powerful heir, ready to destroy her enemies. The gala venue was decorated on a massive grand scale that blocked traffic across the city. When Chloe arrived and saw Lily standing there completely fine, her heart stopped. Her face went completely pale as a ghost, looking absolutely terrified in front of the cameras. The cheap shot she took at Lily's background now looked completely ridiculous next to her presence. Lily walked toward her with total elegance, putting intense psychological pressure on her with every step. As the grand gala hit its peak, all eyes in the room turned to Lily. Ethan stepped forward, walking right into the center of the bright spotlight on stage. In front of the entire high society crowd, he dropped to one knee with total humility. Without saying a single word, he pulled out a ring symbolizing the true wealth of the family. The brilliant spark of the massive diamond lit up Lily's beautiful calm face on the screens. Chloe watched the proposal happen, and her remaining sanity completely broke down. Lily wasn't just an ordinary woman, she was the absolute priority of the entire empire. That public moment completely crushed every single insult Chloe ever made about her past. Chloe lost the game completely, and her pride turned into dust under Lily's feet as the crowd cheered. Standing under the glittering crystal chandelier, Chloe's face twisted with pure rage and terror. Her light cream-colored dress made her look like a broken puppet on a public stage. Faced with Lily's sharp, undeniable questions, her innocent act completely failed to convince anyone. Lily stood tall in her elegant black dress, radiating pure power, wealth, and authority. Her rare blue diamond necklace caught the light as she stared Chloe down without mercy. Her words cut through the silent ballroom like a sharp, decisive blade of justice. She exposed the entire lounge plot, the paid thugs, and the dangerous drugs clearly to the media. The ugly truth was laid bare for the entire high society crowd to see on the big screens. Chloe tried to deny it, but her trembling words sounded pathetic against the cold hard facts. Her eyes filled with pure hatred and desperation as the guests began pointing and whispering. Lily calmly held up her phone, displaying the undeniable video proof of the assault to the reporters. The entire ballroom went dead silent before a massive wave of shock spread through the room. The guests gasped as the details of Chloe's violent crimes became completely clear. Reporters swarmed in, their camera flashes lighting up Chloe's ruined, terrified face from all angles. That public exposure completely broke Chloe's remaining strength, and she fell to her knees. She looked over at Ethan for help, hoping he would save her from the angry crowd, but Ethan just glared back at her with absolute disgust and cold indifference from the stage. His words were freezing cold as he called her out for her lies and her dark soul. He loathed her for tricking him and destroying his family's reputation over the months. Her desperate actions cost him his marriage, his true love, and his entire career. Losing Ethan's support made Chloe snap, and she started screaming like a wild animal. Her sharp broken voice echoed through the high ceilings in a furious crazy rant. She cursed Lily and every wealthy family who was born into privilege and high class. She demanded to know why Lily got all the respect while she had to struggle in the dirt. She blamed her failure on her background, never seeing her own sick greed as the cause. Her inner darkness was the real reason her life was completely ruined at the end of the day. Lily just raised an eyebrow, looking down at her with total pity and cold distance. She calmly said real respect can't be won through cheap mind games and violence. She told Chloe her narrow, toxic mindset was her own biggest obstacle to happiness. Those calm words pushed Chloe completely over the edge into total, violent madness. She lunged forward with a wild scream and shoved Lily right into the deep pool. Lily splashed heavily into the cold water, disappearing beneath the surface in her heavy gown. The entire ballroom erupted into total chaos as people started running and screaming for help. Ethan and Ryan dove into the deep pool at the exact same fraction of a second. Without a single thought for their own safety, they plunged into the dark water to save her. The pool rippled wildly under the bright gala lights as they swam desperately toward her figure. Ryan pulled Lily out of the water first, his eyes full of deep, long-lasting devotion. At that exact moment, a 7-year-old secret finally came to light in front of the cameras. Ryan was the actual teenager who saved Lily from the burning car crash all those years ago. Ethan stood in the water, drenched and completely shattered by the realization of his mistake. The truth destroyed his remaining pride, leaving him completely helpless in front of the crowd. Meanwhile, Lily's grandfather ordered his armed guards to handle the screaming Chloe. They dragged the crying woman away to face the federal police immediately without mercy. The once arrogant woman was reduced to a pathetic, sobbing mess on the wet floor. Ethan knelt outside the grand estate gates later that night, watching the cold windows. He saw Ryan gently wrap a warm cashmere blanket around Lily's shoulders inside the house. He realized their 7 years of misunderstandings could never be fixed by his tears. His current regret meant absolutely nothing to the family he tried to hurt for profit. The grandfather's cold look from the balcony signaled the absolute end of Ethan's social life. He was left alone in the pouring rain to deal with his own massive failures. He watched the woman he loved walk away into Ryan's protective arms for the rest of her life. The timeline sped up quickly after that dramatic night at the Global Charity Gala. Once Lily recovered her full strength, Ryan showered her with deeply meaningful support. They connected on a spiritual level that went way beyond wealth or business partnerships. Ethan returned to his empty, quiet townhouse, feeling completely detached from reality, staring at an old photo of their wedding day. The intense grief made him cough up blood. The red stains on the hardwood floor matched his broken, dying heart perfectly. Lily eventually visited his hospital bed one last time before his final sentencing. Despite the divorce and the pain, she showed him a final act of pure grace. She personally brewed him a warm cup of ginger tea to ease his physical pain. That simple, quiet gesture was her final goodbye to the youth they spent together. During her brief visit, Ethan finally learned the full truth about the old car accident. He realized Ryan was the brave boy who pulled his unconscious body from the fire too. The truth shattered his entire world, and the former CEO broke down crying like a child. He completely let go of his pride, admitting his utter failure in front of her. Later, the sun shone beautifully on Lily and Ryan's private castle wedding. The ceremony was small, elegant, and filled with genuine joy from real friends. A beautiful little girl named Joy ran through the crowd with a bright smile. She jumped right into Ryan's arms, calling him daddy at the top of her lungs. That sweet moment surprised the guests and made everyone smile with tears in their eyes. Their true love story actually began in the ashes of that crisis 7 years ago. The grandfather smiled warmly from his seat, happy to see his family finally whole. When they said their vows, their clear voices sounded completely certain about the future. After 7 years of pain and survival, Lily finally broke free from her heavy chains. She started a beautiful new life with the man who truly loved and respected her. The struggles of the past just made this happy moment feel infinitely sweeter to her. The long darkness of her previous marriage was completely gone, replaced by light. The sun shone down on the couple as they looked deep into each other's eyes. The past faded into the wind, leaving only a bright, successful journey ahead of them. Their old conflicts didn't matter anymore. Now that they found their true home, they finally found each other at the absolute perfect time in their lives. The camera pulled back slowly, showing the beautiful estate and the laughing child. The perfect scene created a powerful memory that would stay in their hearts forever. Ethan watched the live wedding broadcast from his quiet gray prison cell. He finally let go of his bitter regrets and found a strange sense of peace. He was glad Lily found safety, and he finally stopped holding on to his old greed. He let their tragic story become a distant memory of a dream he was glad to wake up from. Through this most ruthless and cruel act in the world, she had redeemed for herself the purest, most sacred, and utterly flawless freedom of the soul. On the seemingly endless runway of New York's JFK International Airport, a massive commercial airliner landed smoothly and precisely against the piercing morning wind.